philosophy. And in particular, one of my I want to discuss a chapter in one of my favorite books by one of my favorite authors of all time, William Irwin Thompson. And the book that we're going to discuss, or at least a chapter in that book, and I'm going to also bring up, I'm going to have a PowerPoint presentation with my little ugly mug in the corner talking you through it. So the book is called At the Edge of History by William Irwin Thompson. It came out in 1971. And the chapter in that book is called Values and Conflict Through History. There is so much fascinating information in this book that really explains so much of our messy, this world we live in, this political nightmare, this mess, so much in here explains it, and I really believe that his work has not been followed up in any significant way. It's truly a tragedy. So I think this information is important. I want to present it to you, both using, I'll make some direct quotations from Thompson's text, as well as, my own ideas on how what's going on, how this all fits into, the world we're living in right now. So, let's go to let's go to the slide now, the slides, and we're going to discuss, we're going to have to go way back in time to a tribal community. So we're at phase 1 of humankind on Earth, called the tribal community. We came out of what we all know the take it from Darwin forward. We all know that story. So what we're going to do is talk about how a tribal community works, how it developed, and why it works that way. Who are the players in it, and then we're going to later. This is going to grow into a large superstructure that includes later stages like agricultural and industrial civilization, and maybe even beyond. But for now, we're going to focus on this phase 1. And who do we have in a tribal community? Well, a tribal community, at its essence, is a bunch of hunters. You have to hunt for food. No, you can't put that off on someone else. That's the work that has to be done, hunting and gathering. And so we have in our circle here, in the lower, we have basically, you can see there's 4 quadrants in this circle. 3 have been whited out, and I'm showing the one in the bottom right-hand corner. And this is the group called the hunters. So you have a tribal community, you have hunters, and these hunters would be, this would, at one stage of our development, this would take up the whole circle, because you wouldn't have all these other people there yet that we're about to go into. But a development happens that brings a single individual out of the group of hunters, and it's probably not a pretty situation. Essentially what you get is a chief emerges out of, as you can see, emerges out of the hunter group to be the leader of the tribe. And how is that done? Well, by beating the other people over the head with a club. I mean, that's the way it was done back then. You were the strongest, person in the tribe. You were the leader. So now this tension, this executive to worker, we could almost think of it as like workers to a boss or something. There's a tension there that another person is eventually going to figure out a way to mediate. And so what we have now is, instead of moving from bottom to top like we did with Hunter, we move from that position of the chief to the left, and we get the appearance of an individual known as the shaman. Now what the shaman is trying to do is to mediate the tension that exists between the executive person, the chief, who uses who basically says, I'm chief because I can beat everyone else up over the head, and the rest of the tribe, the hunters. So the shaman has to find a way to, make this tension go away, or get there to be an agreement between the chief and the hunters, that the hunters will be led by this chief, and the chief should not be too violent in trying to keep the hunters in line. So the shaman, now how does the shaman do this? The shaman has to have, he can't just be anybody from the hunter. He has to have a special magical purpose. And that is, of course, that's how religion began, with the shaman. The shaman basically says, but I have a higher purpose. I'm explaining to you all what the purpose of this is. We are to have a higher purpose than just one chief beating, the hunters over the head to go to work. So this mediating force thing comes in, called the shaman. Now, you would think that, okay, this cycle is complete and it should work, but it doesn't. What happens is that, most of the hunters kind of can see what's going on here, and they're not quite believing the shaman is, all that he says he is. You're sure that there's this deity up there and all this business. So the hunters are skeptical of the shaman. So, and the hunters, some of them want to laugh him, away. Some of them would rather go back and say, look, be reasonable. But the way this works is that in the fourth quadrant, in our lower bottom quadrant, is the appearance of the clown. For lack of a better term, we could call him the critic, or the person who mocks others. But we call this person the clown. And the clown's purpose, and this is where maybe I should just do a direct quotation of William Irwin Thompson here. Well, basically, what I'll do is, I'll explain it myself, and then I'll read his quote. The clown's purpose is to mock the power of the shaman, and in turn the others too, to basically mock the other three groups. If not to mock, then to be critical of, or to bring a sense of, all right, stop here a moment. Not everything the shaman says might be true. And if the shaman continues, it's my job to mock the shaman, to make fun of his ideas, or religious ideas. So what we have then is, what I'll do is I'll read this quote here from William Irwin Thompson. We begin to see in this development that these people are not just any four. This isn't just any four groups, but a very special four. There is the headman. Now, William Irwin Thompson calls the chief the headman. I substituted in chief for that. The headman, who is at once the leader of his community and the equal of the men, of the men with whom he must hunt. Then there is the one called the Beautiful, and is known for his physical strength, grace, and speed. There is then the silent shaman and craftsman who works the magic when they have need of it. And then there is the clown, the ugly joker who makes fun of the seriousness of the shaman, the physical beauty of the hunter, and the authority of the headman. They are not just any four, but they are four with a very special set of interlocking and complementary qualities. So this is basically how your tribal community works. This is the checks and balances in a tribal community. Now, something changes all that. Something happened in the annals of human history or prehistory, and that's called the development of agricultural society. So, and here again I'll quote Thompson a couple pages later in his book. Okay, agricultural society. All right, I'm going to quote the book directly. The tribal society seems to express the value which W.B. Yeats, this is the person that Thompson bases his diagrams on, in which W.B. Yeats called the unity of being. For all the complementary and opposing forces seem to be in balance. But the appearance of an economic surplus created by the change from a food gathering community to a food producing society changes all that. The surplus enables society to support specialists, and this new specialization increases the distance between people in their different roles. So, that's quoting Thompson directly. I'm going to go back now to we're going to look at the PowerPoint presentation again and look at how this transformation to agricultural society actually works and what different specializations are created as a result of that. Okay, so I'm going to shrink down now the tribal community circle so I can fit more things into here. And incidentally, though, before we go on to that, I just want to point out what you can see on the left and right hand bottom sides that I have just added these labels. Left side is ideational, right side is operational. That's a very important distinction because it's going to let us know how a political magnetic field is created around all this business. But yes, as you can see, the people on the right side of the circle, the chief and the hunter, they're the people responsible for the operations of the tribe. On the left side, the shaman and the clown are ideational people. They are people who are about ideas and purpose and reason or mocking of reason. Any of those things that in which they're not directly having to go out and hunt. Well, in the tribal community they did, but as we're going to see in agricultural and then in later industrial society, all of the people do not have to do what the common person in the bottom right-hand quadrant does. The tribe, the chief, the shaman, and the clown have to join in on the hunt. In agricultural society, people who have specializations don't have to do what the common person does. So, perhaps I should pause here and end the first part of this video. We'll move on to phase 2. Agricultural society in the next video. Thank you.